Hello, and welcome to the new California Landscape Drip page. In this video, I'll be explaining the drip system and showing you the parts that make up the system. Let's go ahead and start down here at the valves. The valves are over on the side here. Zones 1, 2, and 3 are the drip zones. If I come up here, you can see this rosy color of the plants. The plants are color coded for their individual zones. Zone 1 in the front yard, it's moderate water use plants, so we've separated them out. Zone 2 and 3 are low water use plants, and you can see how the color coding separates the zones from one another. Over here at the valves, we have the drip pressure regulator and filter that is directly downstream of the valve. And then you can see that we have black tubing that comes from the valve and runs to the particular area. The black tubing is blank polyethylene tubing. This means it doesn't have any emitters either built in or punched into the tubing. And we run this blank tubing in places where we don't need to water plants. So for instance, number 2 is running along here, and then it runs underneath the driveway, and then it comes directly over here to the number 2 area here. Goes across under the driveway. So the black tubing is blank tubing, no emitters, and the brown tubing with the squiggly lines, that is the Netafim tubing. And the Netafim tubing has 0.6 gallons per hour emitters on it, spaced every 18 inches. And the way we manage that is every plant gets the drip tubing, the Netafim tubing, on each side of the plant. So let's go ahead and zoom in on an area here. We'll look at this area. You can see that each plant has the tubing running on both sides of the plant, and this provides even root growth for the plant. And you can see also that the tubing really runs in it has an organic shape to it. It just sort of squiggles and snakes along. And when you have the tubing so that it's a loose grid like this, you can easily move the tubing to different areas as the plants grow. We do need to grow drip systems as the plants grow, because when the plants start out brand new, you need to have the emitters much closer to the root ball because that's where the roots are. And then as the plants grow, we can move those out, move the drip tubing out, away from the plant. The next thing I'd like to point out is, I'll zoom in on this area down in here. Number 1, you see all these little white bow tie things. These are flush points for the drip system, all of these bow ties. They're all over the place, really. And there are many flush points because this is a closed system. It's all a closed loop to help with the pressure and the delivery of the water. And we put in these flush points so that you can flush the debris out of the drip system. And we do recommend that you flush drip systems about once a month. And I'll be showing you photos in just a little bit as to what it looks like, what the flush points look like, and the parts that you can use to make that happen. Also, you can see that underneath the hardscaping we have a path here with a sleeve. We have a sleeve under the driveway, sleeve here, sleeve here. I believe there's a sleeve in the back as well. Anytime you need to run drip tubing underneath hardscaping, you want to put it use the blank tubing with no emitters. You really don't want to be watering underneath concrete and other hardscaping and paths and such. So the sleeves indicate where you would tunnel under if they're existing. If the walkways are existing, you could tunnel under and put in a fairly large PVC pipe so that you can run anything really underneath these hard surfaces. We usually use anywhere from 1.25 inch PVC to 1.5 inch, and sometimes we even use the drain pipe. Pipe that's large enough for drain pipes. So I think that's it for the drip system to show you. Let's go ahead and go on over to look at the photographs now. Starting with the Netafim tubing, you can see that there are two tubes depicted here. One of them, you can see the emitter is free, and the other one has a dripper plug ring plugging the emitter so that water can't come out. And these are the plug rings. They're really kind of cool because you can just slip them over the tubing and plug the emitter. And the irrigation, the drip system is set up so that the system is in place for the mature sizes of the plants. So then if you plant the plants new and they only need a couple of emitters on each plant, any other emitters that are around the plant can be plugged by these dripper plug rings. And we've specified many of those to plug up the emitters that are not used, that are not needed in the beginning. It's a very useful thing for water conservation. And then also it saves a lot of time later in the life of the plant having to you don't have to bring in new tubing as the plant grows. It's already there. You just unplug the emitters that are already there. Next up is the fittings for the Netafim tubing. We have elbows, T's, and couplings. They go inside the tubing. Next up, we have the Rainbird Easy Fit Universal Fittings. These are really great for using with all different types and sizes of drip tubing. There are many sizes of half-inch tubing out there in the world. They all say half-inch, but many of them are different sizes. And so this Rainbird Universal can be used with any of those sizes of half-inch tubing. These are jute staples. We use these to hold down the tubes. Very important to hold down the drip tubing. Those tubes can wander away from where they're supposed to water pretty quickly, especially if people or animals are walking around in the garden. Next up, we have a flush point, and this is where you can create an point for taking the cap off and flushing the debris out of the system. We recommend that you flush drip systems about once a month, and also if you ever have a break in the drip tubing, after you repair that break, you should always flush the drip system. Flush the whole thing, because you will end up with debris or soil inside the tubes, and those can end up in the valve and keep the valve from closing. This is that same flush point, only all the parts are put together. By the way, all of these photographs are on this page, this drip page, so that you can see them other than watching this video. This is another way of flushing the system. This is a compression fitting here, and you can see it's the blue type. It's for a certain size of the half-inch tubing, and then a cap that you can unscrew easily to flush the drip system. This is another strategy. These are nice because these little figure 8 things are they're really inexpensive. You can get a ton of these, and I have recommended that you put in a lot of flush points in the drip system. and these figure eights work out nicely. I've also used things like wire to hold this. You just fold over the tubing, and anything that can hold that in place is good. It should be something very secure though, because you really don't want those popping open and the water gushing out. Next up is a shutoff valve for drip. The Wholesome Habitat plan calls for shutoff valves for the veggie beds. Here's one and here is another. This one is the one that Netafim uses, that they send out. It's an Antelco shutoff valve. And then this one is a standard compression fitting for shutting off a line on any part of a drip system, really, whether it be a veggie bed or anything else. And then the last photo is the Rainbird filter / pressure regulator that goes down directly downstream of the valve. Every drip system must have a filter and a pressure regulator. The filter is inside here, and every now and then you want to unscrew this area here, and the filter is inside, and you can just pull that filter out and wash it. And then this part here is where the pressure regulator is. It brings it down to 30 psi. This is really great because it's a filter and pressure regulator all in one unit. Before, we had to screw two things together and buy two components and screw them together, and now they're making these with the filter and the pressure regulator in one unit. So this concludes the drip video. Thank you very much.